the New York Knicks find themselves in a familiar spot this preseason, facing questions, battling injuries, and counting on resilience to set the tone for another long campaign. This time, the focus is on one of their emotional leaders, Josh Hart. Leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any updates. Hart has been sidelined with a lower back injury, suffered just minutes into the Knicks preseason opener against the Philadelphia 76ers in Abu Dhabi. 7 minutes on the floor was all he managed before his body betrayed him. It was a disappointing start, especially for a player who entered the preseason with plenty of curiosity surrounding his role in the lineup. Fans and analysts alike were eager to see whether Hart would remain in the starting five or transition into a key role off the bench. That clarity never came. Instead, the injury left him on the sidelines, watching, waiting, and rehabbing, a position that's never easy for a competitor known for his relentless energy and grit. Still, inside the Knicks organization, there's no panic. There's confidence. Head coach Mike Brown spoke about Hart's situation earlier this week, striking a tone that was both realistic and reassuring. The tough part about it, Brown told Zach Braziller of the New York Post, is that what we're doing this year is new, and since he hasn't gone through it, he's a little behind in that regard. But he's got a great feel for the game, he's watched us closely, and he should be able to jump right back in. He might be a few steps behind, but he'll catch up quickly. That kind of faith says a lot. Brown's words reflect not only trust in Hart's abilities but also respect for his professionalism. After more than 2 seasons in New York, Hart has earned a reputation as one of the team's most dependable players, the type who does the dirty work without needing the spotlight. According to Braziller's report, Hart has already begun light on-court work as part of his recovery process, even though he hasn't been cleared for full contact practice. With the Knicks' regular season opener against the Cleveland Cavaliers just days away, set for October 22nd at Madison Square Garden, the clock is ticking. But the team remains optimistic that Hart will be ready soon. In his brief preseason appearance, Hart came off the bench, something he's perfectly comfortable with. Last season, he shouldered one of the heaviest workloads on the roster, logging high minutes night after night, and never once complained about his role. For Hart, it's always been about winning, not starting. That mindset was on full display last spring, during the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. Just 2 games into the series, Hart and the Knicks coaching staff mutually agreed to have him come off the bench so that center Mitchell Robinson could return to the starting lineup. It was a selfless move, the kind that quietly defines locker room culture. But the preseason hasn't been kind to Hart's health. In addition to the lingering back spasms, he's also dealing with a finger injury that will require him to wear a splint on his shooting hand for much of the season. To make matters worse, he missed last week's exhibition game against the Minnesota Timberwolves due to illness. For most players, this combination of setbacks would be cause for concern. But Josh Hart isn't most players. He's known for his toughness, both physical and mental, and his ability to adapt no matter the circumstances. Whether he's starting, coming off the bench, or playing through pain, Hart's contribution goes far beyond the stat sheet. He's the kind of player who changes momentum with a rebound, a hustle play, or a timely defensive stop. That's why the Knicks' confidence in him hasn't wavered. They know what he brings: leadership, intensity, and a relentless competitive spirit. Even from the sidelines, he remains vocal, engaged, and locked in. Hart's importance to this roster goes deeper than his numbers. He embodies the kind of player New York fans love: tough, hard-working, unselfish, and willing to do whatever it takes to win. It's that mentality that makes him indispensable to this team's identity. As the regular season approaches, all eyes are on the health of the Knicks' rotation. The starting 5 has stayed consistent through the preseason, with few surprises, but Hart's absence is felt, not just in minutes played, but in the intangibles he provides. The spark, the effort, the energy. The Knicks expect him to be back soon, and when he returns, there's little doubt he'll pick up right where he left off, diving for loose balls, crashing the boards, and giving everything he's got every possession. For now, the message from Madison Square Garden is clear. Josh Hart is healing, but the faith in him hasn't wavered. He's still a vital piece of what this team is building. And when he's back in uniform, the Knicks will once again have their heartbeat on the floor, the kind of player who turns effort into inspiration and adversity into opportunity. Because if there's one thing you can count on with Josh Hart, it's that no injury, no setback, and no missed game will ever keep him from giving New York exactly what it needs: heart, hustle, and everything in between. New York Knicks star Jalen Brunson is stepping into the spotlight once again, not just as the team's point guard, but as the emotional and strategic leader of a franchise determined to rewrite its story. After their deepest playoff run in more than 2 decades, the Knicks enter this season with a renewed sense of purpose. Last year, they reached the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 2000, a major breakthrough that reignited hope across Madison Square Garden. But even that achievement came with frustration. The Knicks showed resilience and heart, yet ultimately fell short of their championship dream. That ending led to one of the biggest changes the organization has made in years. Tom Thibodeau, who had guided the team through several competitive seasons, was let go following the playoff exit. In his place, the Knicks turned to Mike Brown, a coach with nearly 3 decades of NBA experience, known for his defensive acumen, adaptability, and strong leadership presence. Brown's arrival marks a new era for the Knicks, one focused on balance, precision, and structure. And Jalen Brunson is right at the center of it. Now firmly established as the team's cornerstone, Brunson has become more than just New York's top scorer and playmaker. He's the voice of accountability, the player everyone looks to for composure and guidance. "Everything is new," Brunson said recently in an interview with Posting and Toasting. "So attention to detail is key for us to try to get better, faster. All those little things we've picked up and learned, we can't just skip over them. We have to understand that every small thing makes a big difference. That's the most important thing." Brunson's mindset reflects exactly what Brown wants to instill in his team: discipline, patience, and trust in the process. For Brunson, that adaptability is nothing new. He's used to transition. "As a kid, I moved 7 or 8 times," he explained. "New schools, new friends, new teams. I always had to adjust. So adapting is something that's been part of my life from an early age. I'm not nervous about change. It's what I've always done." That ability to stay calm through transition could be one of the Knicks' greatest strengths heading into the new season. Adjusting to a new system under Mike Brown. Since training camp opened, Brown has focused on implementing a system built on movement, communication, and trust. The offense is more dynamic, emphasizing pace, spacing, and team decision-making over isolation play. Without Julius Randle, who left the team during the offseason, Brunson will shoulder an even greater leadership role, both as a scorer and as a facilitator. "What we're working on right now is just the basics of our offense," Brunson told SNY. "It's going to take time. It's not always going to be perfect, but it's about how we continue to trust it and learn it. When things get tough, are we going to fall back into who we used to be, or are we going to keep pushing forward with what's new? We have to keep trusting it." Brunson's words reflect the team's broader mentality: embrace the learning curve, trust the system, and focus on steady growth. Brown's reputation for developing cohesive, intelligent teams is already visible in practice. Players have spoken about the attention to detail and structure he brings, an environment where every possession, every screen, every rotation matters. Even with Thibodeau's departure, one of his philosophies remains intact: the idea of peaking at the right time. Brunson says that hasn't changed. "You want to be your best basketball self at the end of the season," he said. "That's always the goal. We're building toward that moment, every day, every game." Brunson's leadership on and off the court. Brunson's influence extends beyond the court. Teammates describe him as a perfectionist, someone who practices as if every drill decides a championship. He's vocal but humble, intense but composed. His leadership style blends accountability with respect, and his consistency has turned him into one of the NBA's most trusted locker room leaders. In New York, that matters. Fans have seen countless stars come and go, but Brunson's work ethic and authenticity have made him the face of this new Knicks identity. He doesn't chase headlines, he builds habits. "We know what we're capable of," he said. "But potential means nothing if you don't execute. Every single day, you've got to get 1% better. That's how you win in this league." For a city that demands effort and resilience, Brunson embodies exactly what New York basketball stands for: toughness, humility, and an unwavering belief in the grind. The road ahead. With Mike Brown steering the team and Jalen Brunson setting the tone, the Knicks are entering a crucial chapter in their evolution. The Eastern Conference remains loaded, with the Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers still among the elite, but New York believes it belongs in that conversation. There's no Julius Randle this time, no Thibodeau-driven system to fall back on. This version of the Knicks is younger, faster, and more flexible. Brown's coaching philosophy is about empowering players, allowing them to make reads and decisions on the fly, a perfect fit for Brunson's high basketball IQ. The challenge now is execution. The Knicks don't just want to compete, they want to sustain success. They want to prove that last year's playoff run wasn't a fluke, but a foundation. And if Brunson's leadership is any indication, they're on the right path. "We're not trying to skip steps," he said. "We're building something that lasts." As New York moves forward under new direction, one thing is clear. Jalen Brunson isn't just leading the Knicks, he's redefining what leadership looks like in the heart of Madison Square Garden. Did Giannis Antetokounmpo quietly push for a move to the Knicks? According to a recent report from ESPN, Milwaukee Bucks superstar Giannis Antetokounmpo has shown real interest in joining the New York Knicks. Sources say the Bucks and Knicks held exploratory talks this past summer. Discussions centered on Giannis's willingness to be traded to New York if his run in Milwaukee ever came to an end. Those talks didn't gain much traction, but the fact that they even happened is headline-worthy. Around the league, this isn't shocking. NBA insiders have long known that the Knicks have kept a close eye on Giannis's situation. Their fascination with him dates back several seasons. But now, for the first time, reports suggest that the interest might go both ways. Beat writer James L. Edwards III and national reporter Fred Katz broke down the situation, explaining how the rumors surfaced and how they fit into New York's aggressive pursuit of star talent. How the trade talk started. When asked if he was surprised by the idea that the Bucks and Knicks discussed a trade, Edwards said he wasn't. "The Knicks have been watching the status of big-name players for years," he said. "And Antetokounmpo sits right at the top of that list." He also pointed out that Giannis's preference for New York shouldn't catch anyone off guard. The Greek freak has often spoken about his admiration for the city, his love of playing under the bright lights at Madison Square Garden, and his hunger to compete for another NBA title. What did surprise Edwards, though, was that Milwaukee was even willing to pick up the phone. He noted that the Knicks simply don't have the assets to convince a franchise to part ways with a player of Giannis's caliber. To capture the absurdity of those alleged talks, Edwards painted a humorous mental picture of how things might have gone behind closed doors. "Giannis, if you trade me, I'd like to go to New York." John Horst, Bucks GM, "All right, let me see what they can offer." Leon Rose, Knicks president, "John, you're finally ready to move Giannis." Horst, "Not exactly, but I'll listen." Rose, "How about Karl-Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and some bad picks?" Horst, "Click." According to Katz, this scenario fits perfectly with the Knicks' reputation around the league. New York is known for calling every team, checking on everyone, from superstars to the end of the bench, Katz said. "I've spoken to executives who couldn't even tell if a Knicks inquiry was serious or just part of their scouting process." That always-checking mindset has become a trademark of the Knicks front office, especially when a star player, like Giannis reportedly did, mentions New York by name. The off-season strategy behind the scenes. Katz revealed another interesting wrinkle, that the Knicks delayed finalizing Mikal Bridges' extension this summer because they were waiting to see what might happen with Giannis. Once Bridges signed, he'd be ineligible for trade for 6 months, Katz explained. The front office didn't want to tie its own hands if Giannis suddenly became available. Eventually, the Knicks did finalize Bridges' deal early enough to keep trade flexibility heading into the February deadline. But by then, it was clear Giannis wasn't on the move. Antetokounmpo remains one of the most valuable players in basketball, a 2-time MVP, a perennial all-star, and the kind of talent who guarantees his team at least 40 wins a year. But the Knicks' asset pool is thin. After last season's blockbuster trades for Bridges and Karl-Anthony Towns, New York no longer holds a strong collection of draft picks. The team still owns pick swaps in 2026, 2028, 2030, and 2032, plus a protected first-rounder via Washington in 2026, which will likely turn into 2 second-rounders. But they lack young, high-upside players, the kind of prospects that move the needle in major trades. That puts them behind teams like the Houston Rockets and San Antonio Spurs, who are loaded with draft capital and promising young talent. Betting markets respond cautiously. While the buzz around Giannis and the Knicks grabbed national attention, Vegas didn't overreact. Despite all the speculation, sportsbooks like DraftKings, FanDuel, and BetMGM left the odds mostly unchanged. As of early October 2025, the Knicks sit between plus 850 and plus 1,000 to win the NBA title, according to data compiled from DraftKings and Covers. Their Eastern Conference odds hover around plus 340, and BetMGM lists their win total at 53.5 games. By comparison, the Bucks' odds have taken a serious hit. Milwaukee is now seen as a long shot, between plus 5,000 plus 7,500 to win the championship, with a projected 42.5 wins. Analysts blame that drop on an aging roster, the fallout from the Damian Lillard trade, and a lack of future draft flexibility. Even in the MVP race, Giannis's odds have drifted. He opened the summer near plus 700, but now sits around plus 1,200, trailing Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Oddsmakers say this has more to do with Milwaukee's championship outlook than with any concerns about Giannis himself. Why the trade still doesn't make sense. Edwards was blunt. Even if the Bucks wanted to explore a deal, New York doesn't have the pieces to make it happen. They gave up most of their best draft assets last summer, he said, referencing the 4 unprotected first-rounders, 1 swap, a protected pick, and a second-rounder sent out for Bridges. On top of that, Bridges' new contract, signed on August 1st, makes him ineligible for trade until late January. That leaves the Knicks with names like Towns, Anunoby, and Josh Hart as possible trade chips. Together, they simply don't offer enough value to sway Milwaukee. The Bucks aren't trading a generational superstar for a mix of veterans and weak picks, Edwards said. Unless another team gets involved, it's not happening. Katz agreed. Teams like Houston and San Antonio, stacked with young players and high-end draft assets, could easily outbid New York. But he also noted that the league's trade landscape is unpredictable. What if Giannis makes it clear he only wants New York? Katz asked. If the Bucks decide to respect that, or if he signals he'll re-sign only there, the market could shrink fast. Should the Knicks even go after Giannis right now? When asked if New York should push for Giannis immediately, Edwards gave a surprising answer. Honestly, no. They should want him, every team should, but not right now, not at that cost, he said. He pointed to the NBA's new financial apron rules, which heavily penalize teams that spend big and lose depth in the process. The teams that reached the finals last year were 2 of the deepest in the league, Edwards added. If the Knicks made this move, they'd be gutting their lineup for 1 player. Right now, the Knicks have 4 starters who could start anywhere and 3 more who could start for other teams. The roster is balanced, cohesive, and the Eastern Conference has been weakened by injuries. The Knicks are built to win now, Edwards said. There's no need to risk the future when the present already looks promising. Katz agreed that this could ultimately sort itself out. If the Knicks click under new coach Mike Brown and take control of the East, Giannis might not even be worth the gamble, he said. But if they stumble, and the opportunity returns, then adding a generational player like Giannis could become impossible to ignore.